It is Thursday, September 3rd, 2020, and this is an update on the Three Gorges Dam and the happenings around China. We have 4 pieces of information to cover today, including China's Heilongjiang activates emergency response for approaching typhoon. Next, courtesy of Reuters, more than 40 crew missing after cattle ship capsizes in storm off Japan. Also, courtesy of Grain Central, record convoy of grain cargoes bound for China set to continue. We also have some new photos and some new footage. Let's hop into it. And a brief caveat before today's video. While researching for these reports, I come across information from various sources. Just because I decide to include a piece of information doesn't necessarily mean that I agree with it. I like to let you decide for yourself. Moving on. And a quick look at the status of the water level at the Three Gorges Dam before we get started. The current water level at the Three Gorges Dam is 160.81 meters. That's up from yesterday's 160.07 meters. The current outflow is listed at 26,700 cubic meters per second. That is down from yesterday's 29,000 cubic meters per second. The current inflow is not listed, and it is worth noting that these numbers are released by the CCP. And one last piece of interesting information before we get started. The chart you see in the background is the current price of rice, which recently hit its highest prices since 2013. And this comes courtesy of thestar.com. China's Heilongjiang activates emergency response for approaching typhoon. Northeast China's Heilongjiang province on Wednesday afternoon activated an emergency response for flood control as Typhoon Maisak barreled toward the province. The Level 4 response, the lowest in China's 4-tier emergency response system, took effect at 2 p.m., according to the Provincial Flood Control and Drought Relief Headquarters. According to the forecast, Typhoon Maisak will enter Heilongjiang from Wednesday to Friday, with heavy rain and winds of up to 30 meters per second expected to lash the province. The Provincial Weather Bureau initiated a Level 3 emergency response for meteorological disasters at 2:30 p.m., warning of the possibility of inundation of farmland and flooding of some rivers across the province. And this comes courtesy of Reuters. More than 40 crew missing after cattle ship capsizes in storm off Japan. More than 40 crew members were missing after a ship carrying cattle from New Zealand to China capsized in stormy weather in the East China Sea, the Japanese Coast Guard said on Thursday. A lone crew member from the Gulf Livestock 1 had been rescued so far. 3 vessels, 4 airplanes, and 2 divers were taking part in the search, the Coast Guard said. The ship, with a cargo of nearly 6,000 cattle, sent a distress call from the west of Amami Oshima Island in southwestern Japan on Wednesday as Typhoon Maisak lashed the area with strong winds and heavy seas. Sereno Eduardo, a 45-year-old chief officer from the Philippines, was rescued on Wednesday night, Japan's Coast Guard said. By Thursday evening, he was still the only person rescued so far, a Coast Guard official said, adding that the bodies of some cattle had been recovered. The crew of 43 was made up of 39 people from the Philippines, 2 from New Zealand, and 2 from Australia, the Coast Guard said. According to Eduardo, the ship lost an engine before it was hit by a wave and capsized, a Coast Guard spokeswoman said. When the ship capsized, crew were instructed to put on life jackets. Eduardo told the Coast Guard he jumped into the water and did not see any other crew members before he was rescued. Pictures provided by the Coast Guard show a person in a life jacket being hauled from choppy seas in darkness. The Philippines government said it was coordinating with the Japanese Coast Guard in the search. Typhoon Maisak made landfall in South Korea on Thursday, bringing lashing winds, and at least 2 people were killed in the southern city of Busan. Another storm, Typhoon Haitian, was brewing south of Japan and is expected to hit the Korean coast on Sunday or Monday. Thank you for watching this video. If you're finding it informative, please consider giving the channel a subscribe. And this comes courtesy of Grain Central. Record convoy of grain cargoes bound for China set to continue. The constant flow of grain cargoes into Chinese ports continues unabated after Beijing embarked on an agricultural commodity buying spree, the magnitude of which has rarely, if ever, been seen. The rate of grain buying from abroad in the first 8 months of 2020 has some analysts speculating that China may, for the first time, use up its entire annual tariff rate quota for both corn and wheat imports. China has been selling corn from its state reserve since May 28th in a bid to douse a very heated domestic market. Total reserve sales currently stand at 56 million metric tons, with the weekly program expected to continue until October, when new crop supplies come online. The Middle Kingdom has been draining corn reserves since Donald Trump took office 3.5 years ago. It is almost impossible to determine stocks in China, but some recent analysis suggested that ending stocks could fall to as low as 95 million metric tons by the end of the 2020-2021 season. That is less than 40% of the stockpile from early 2017. The recent auctions have been from the country's temporary reserve, which is said to be near empty. The strategic reserve and the national reserve stocks are also down sharply. Recent flooding is reported to have destroyed stockpiles in some low-lying warehouses in the Yangtze Basin, downstream of the Three Gorges Dam. And with demand from the livestock sector increasing, China now has the highest priced corn in the world at around $100 above import parity. In its August update, the USDA pegged Chinese corn imports for the 2020-2021 marketing year at 7 million metric tons. Purchases have already surpassed that estimate, so a significant increase is expected in the September report. The relentless soybean purchasing program out of Brazil this year has been phenomenal. In just 4 months, it has essentially milked that country dry of its exportable surplus, despite record production. With the strong Chinese demand, Brazilian farmers have already sold 40% of their forecast 2020-2021 soybean production before the crop is even in the ground, up from 20% at the same time last year. Some interesting directives from the Chinese government in August have added to the market confusion. Early in the month, the state agency in charge of its strategic grain stockpiles moved to ban photo-taking devices from its granaries, raising anxiety over the quality of national reserves. And then, mid-month, President Xi Jinping sparked concern of a food crisis when he announced the Clean Plate campaign aimed at reducing the country's food waste. And our last piece of information is a series of interesting tweets. And I think that's a good place to wrap up today's video. I hope that you found it informative, and check back soon for more content.